Hello, everybody,
Hi there.
and welcome to
Evil
Asterisk Podcast with Jeannie.
And Luis.
We just watched Curtains. That's curtains for you.
This, as you might know, is the first episode of season 2. And in thinking about how the show is going to be now that we start a second year, we decided not to split the conversation between spoiler-free and spoiler.
We're not doing a spoiler section.
Yes.
We're interspersing spoilers throughout, but with this one, it is a whodunit. We will not reveal the identity of the killer until the end.
Yes, that's going to be our gift to you.
So, what was interesting about this film, it's from 1983. It is, in a way, a little-known gem because we hadn't heard about it. I did some research and I found it, and it was sort of an answer to Prom Night. We do try to focus on indie film and auteur-type film. Usually, the writer-director is the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this one is very interesting because there were two different directors. One of the things that was funny about this, before we found out anything about this film, which, by the way, again, 1983, obscure film starring Samantha Eggar, which was kind of coincidental. We had started watching this movie a few weeks ago, streaming on...
It was available in a few places, but it was in very bad quality. I think it was either Shudder or Prime or something like that.
But it's a really bad transfer, right? So we're watching this movie and we're thinking, oh, this is kind of an interesting gem. Not enough people know about it. But right at the beginning of the movie, you start seeing the credits. And then it says that it was directed by Jonathan Stryker. And then all of a sudden, a character in the film is Jonathan Stryker, who's also a director. And I said to Luis, wait a minute, that's the director of the actual film. And he said, wait, what are you talking about? So then Luis did some research and he discovered something. The director is actually listed in IMDb as Richard Ciupka. It's Ciupka. So that's obviously not Jonathan Stryker. But when you look on the screen, when you're watching, you see directed by Jonathan Stryker. Again, a character in the actual film. So Luis did some research and he found out it was a troubled production and he has some info.
Yeah, basically the director had never directed a movie before this. He was a cinematographer and he was hired by producer Peter R. Simpson to direct this. And he was really wanting to replicate the vibe of the Italian giallo movies, thriller/horror movies.
Like Argento.
Yeah, exactly. And the producer, Peter R. Simpson, did not want that. He wanted kind of a very adult-focused follow-up to the production company's previous movie, Prom Night.
Which is a classic.
Is very famous. It's a classic.
Slasher classic.
So they immediately had issues where producer wanted something more commercial, brighter, even more accessible. Director wanted something more artistic, moodier, slimier, kind of a different vibe completely. So they basically butted heads, and mid-production, producer fired the director and took over and directed the rest of it. Richard Ciupka is the original director.
And then Jonathan Stryker is
Just
pseudonym.
Yeah.
Okay, so they used a pseudonym, like an Ellen Smithy
exactly
concept, for the final director's name on the film itself. But in IMDb, Richard Ciupka is credited as the director.
And Peter R. Simpson. Right? They're both...
No? Only Richard Ciupka is...
Weird. On Wikipedia, Peter R. Simpson is credited as director as well.
Okay, so again, this is not a writer-director, auteur, indie film. The writer is Robert Guza Jr., and it stars John Vernon, Samantha Eggar, who we mentioned, Linda Thorson, and some others. Really a surprising film. Now, the fact that it did have more than one director is kind of obvious when you're watching it, but it doesn't take away from the charm of this film. It really needs to be seen. And the one issue is that it is available on streaming in perhaps numerous places. Did you look on Just Watch to verify?
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Okay. However, the transfer is not very good. So guess what we did? I had already started to say that we started watching this movie a few weeks ago, and then sadly, Samantha Eggar passed away recently. So between the time we had started watching this film and now, which is where we just actually watched the whole thing from start to finish, sadly, Samantha Eggar passed away. But why did we wait? Because the transfer was bad, and we ended up purchasing the Blu-ray.
Yes.
Which is much better.
So the rights of this film are split two ways. The physical media rights are owned by a different company than the one that basically produced the film and eventually got to own it. The physical media, the Blu-ray we just bought, and also there's a DVD as well, it's a little cheaper, is owned by Synapse Films. They redid the audio, was originally mono, they remastered in 5.1.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Sounds amazing. There's a lot of extras. There's a making of.
Mm-hmm.
There's audio commentaries.
There's like some other featurette in there. Yeah. We
It's
haven't seen that
very
yet.
exciting.
We haven't seen either of those
Yeah.
yet.
There's a previous DVD which doesn't look anywhere near as good as this, and there's all the different streaming versions. They're usually on free streaming sites.
But they're all the same, pretty much the same transfer. That isn't.
They're all the old transfer, and they're not worth watching, honestly.
No.
You know, it does a disservice to the film.
We weren't even planning on doing this for the podcast. That's another interesting thing. When we watched it, because it doesn't meet our indie film auteur, our little rule that we have for our podcast. So we just started watching it on a regular night, and then we realized, wait, we should do this for the podcast. It really needs to be seen. Not enough people know about it. So let's make that work.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
Their first movie was a big hit as far as horror goes.
Prom night.
So they wanted to follow up. They was going to completely get away from the whole teeny bopper horror film. They wanted to take it into more adult themes, which for me is amazing because I feel like it's ahead of its time in many ways.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. We started watching, Jeannie just said it, and then after a particular sequence in the beginning, it was just really a dream sequence. We realized,
It's time.
oh my God, this is actually good. What are we doing watching this thing on a normal night?
And part of it is just because it needs to get attention, even though it's a film from 1983. And it was a troubled production, so we were thinking, okay, do we want to bring that topic up? It was too good to pass up. So we set aside the time, we waited, and then just did it now. I'm going to go back and actually read the IMDb description and talk about the genres as well. So here's the IMDb description. 6 young actresses auditioning for a movie role at a remote mansion are targeted by a mysterious masked murderer. The genres are slasher horror, mystery, and thriller. But what's interesting is I was reading about this on Wikipedia, and they used the term whodunit. Whodunit has shown up many, many, many times in films that we reviewed in season 1 of our podcast. So it's just kind of funny that it's missing from this IMDb list. Usually it's there, possibly because of the age of the film. They just, for some reason, didn't put it in there. They're doing it a lot now. But it is a whodunit. And that is why we will not reveal the identity of the murderer until the end of this podcast. Even though this is not a spoiler-free discussion, we are going to be nice to everybody, and we will not let you know until the very end.
In terms of first impressions, there's definitely a very hard tonal shift on this one. It starts very gritty, very kind of raw, and it almost feels like a student film early on, mixed with TV. And there's some scenes set up earlier at an insane asylum, because basically the lead character is this actress who's starting to get a little older, starting not to get roles, and she's in a relationship with this famous director.
I got that she was really famous, and that when they brought her in, they were like, "Can I get your autograph? Oh my God, it's you."
But
I
she
thought
knew.
she was
She knew what she was going against, and she knew that she was holding on to her fame for dear life. The character is someone who's noticed that she's not getting any younger, and there are 20-year-olds going after the roles she wants to get for herself.
Yeah, she got the rights to this film or script called Audra, and she has a business partner, and it looks like they might also be in a relationship. She had gotten the rights for him to direct this film that she's going to be in. She specifically wanted to, since the character in this film is someone who has spent time in an insane asylum or let's say a mental institution, she wanted to do that, and she wanted to experience it. So she poses as someone who's losing her marbles, so to speak, and she gets committed. And this is all an act.
That's how committed she was to the role.
This is method acting and research. So she and Jonathan Stryker, the character, who is the director of the film and the director that is portrayed in the film, they go basically together, conspire to get her committed so that she can do her research. She stays at this mental institution for quite a long time, actually, and really delves in and does some embedded field research, living among the inmates. It's just a very creepy part of the film at the beginning.
Off-putting, yeah.
It is. And you wonder, where is this film going? When we first were watching it, we thought, oh my gosh, is this going to be the whole film where she sits there? And
I was convinced.
Were you going to veto it?
I was about to veto it. I was already multitasking. And I'm like, they're going to spend the whole time in this place.
Yeah.
And I am not ready for this.
No, I was feeling the same way. I wasn't fully ready for what was going to happen. But then it starts to turn, okay? This is why we stayed with it and why we said, okay, we're shutting this off. We're going to have a better viewing experience. We're going to wait for the Blu-ray. And then we're going to actually do it on the podcast.
Yeah.
It wasn't even just for our own enjoyment. We had to do it because some other really cool things came in to play. She does end up escaping from the asylum.
Which is off screen.
Exactly. Because this director, Jonathan Stryker, hasn't come by to get her. I mean, he visits her every so often, and you can see time is going by. He looks different, he's older, but he never gets her out of there. Clearly, something happened where she wanted to get out of there, and he didn't come and get her. He basically abandoned her. The impetus for her escape is that she sees a Variety issue, which is clearly a Canadian version of Variety, okay? Which is funny. The cover story is about how he's casting for the role of Audra now. And that's her role. So what's he doing? Then she's out of there.
But the main character, whose name is Samantha, by the way.
Yeah, and her name in real life is Samantha Eggar.
Yes. As she escapes the institution, she meets with a friend, which, by the way, was never heard from again. And she says, thank you for sending this to me. So her friend sent her the Variety issue.
Okay. And we never see the friend's face. We see her just hanging out in I don't know if she was smoking, if she was in a bed, and
her friend was in bed, kind of getting ready to go to sleep.
Well, Samantha is burning the photos of all the women that are being considered for the Audra role. She's at the fireplace burning these photos one by one, while her friend, whoever it is sitting in a bed, smoking and having a leisurely robe on.
There's some really cool close-ups of the fire, and as the pictures burn and the different layers of each photo kind of burn in different ways and kind of bubble in some kind of disgusting
it's
bubbles.
It's really distorted, yeah.
Yeah, and distort the image behind it.
Yeah.
Done really well. We actually saw that in the original version. That looked terrible, and we could tell it was a cool scene, but on Blu-ray, it was a whole different story. The detail. And Blu-ray is not even new technology, right? It's from 2008 or something. So the amount of detail you could see on even something as simple as a picture burning in a fireplace. Mm-hmm. Huge.
Here are the two incidents that happened that then made us go, okay, we're going to do something about this. First, they had that sleight of hand where she and Jonathan Stryker pretended to have her be unwell, let's say, and get committed. So already we saw that they were play acting. They showed that in a private scene where the two of them were like, oh, will this work? Okay, let's get in there. Of course, everybody thought she needed to be committed. So that was one interesting thing. Mm-hmm. They mirrored that a little later. They had this sequence that Luis and I were just talking about where she was burning the photos in a fireplace. Each time she burned a photo, the first few times, they would show the actress and what was going on with them in the current moment.
That's a really cool touch.
Getting ready to go to the mansion because, again, remember the premise. 6 young actresses auditioning for a movie role at a remote mansion. We didn't even read the description. So when we were thinking the whole movie was going to take place in a mental institution, we were super confused. But then it starts to flip, and then we realize, okay, this is what's really happening. So she's burning these, and then we see each actress, several of them, preparing. So we see one actress who's a comedian doing some stand-up and talking about how she's going to go to the mansion. We see another actress who is a well-known actress that doesn't want the role, but her agent's saying, do it, do it. And then we see an interesting mirrored sequence where this other actress, she's in the tub. There's a lot of tension. It feels like someone's poking around outside her place, thinking, uh-oh, this person's going to get killed. Then she's reading the script, she's drinking some wine, and then she goes to the kitchen, she goes back on the bed, and she reads the script again. And you're wondering, what is going on here, right? Because it seems weird. Like, why doesn't she just sit there and read the script? Why does she stop reading, go in the kitchen, come back, read a page, not even a full page, go back in the kitchen, do this and that, go back on the bed? You're kind of wondering what's going on. And then you see from a point of view of someone outside looking through the shutters, looking through the curtains, maybe wanting to get in. And then at some point, that person does come in while she's on the bed and it basically attacks her. And you realize it's a guy with a nylon stocking on his head. It's like, oh my gosh, that trope, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here? And then, of course, then they both start laughing and it's role play and it's her boyfriend.
Yeah, that was an indication to us that there was more about this movie. Because when I thought it was just a maniac, like all the maniacs like to do in the 70s and 80s, and then it's just role play, I was like, huh.
Okay.
I was like, huh.
And then you see in her room, as they're laughing and joking, the camera pans down and you see this really interesting looking doll. The doll shows up on the poster, by the way. There are two interesting things in the poster. We're going to talk about both, but one is this doll. It's a cool doll. Scary. Mouth kind of drawn down into a frown. It looks really weird. It's a little girl with long dark hair, a little old-fashioned dress on, but a strange look on her face with a frown. And I thought, that's different. I wasn't expecting to see that. What's that doing in her room?
Yeah.
Apparently it's her doll. Then, this is the point at which we said, okay, we're going to save this. There is a dream sequence. Spoiler alert, there's a dream sequence. She, the same actress, is driving to the mansion. See her driving. Beautiful with a lake and the rain and this beautiful lakeside drive around a mountain, but it's kind of dangerous. And then she sees this figure in the middle of the street. After she wipes her window, she realizes, wait, looks like the doll that she has in her room. What's it doing in the middle of the street, right? And so she gets out, and you're thinking, oh no. She gets out, and she goes over to the doll. And then, kind of simultaneously, I think, the doll grabs her, and then at the same time, the door to her car opens and someone goes in there and basically runs her over and she wakes up. So that was cool.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, that might have been the point at which we said, okay.
It was.
Yeah.
It was because even if it was a dream sequence, that if you really think about it, it's meaningless in terms of what it adds to the movie plot-wise.
Yeah.
You know, it's self-contained.
But it was artistic.
It was like a little short film.
Yeah.
But it was done so well. And by the way, it's her boyfriend's voice on the radio, and she immediately
Yes.
changed the station.
Oh, yeah. That was a neat touch. We only noticed that this time, though. We didn't notice it last time.
Yeah.
We recognized the guy's voice. He has such a distinct voice, the boyfriend. She's driving, and we hear a weather report from the same person. And then she sticks the tape in.
Yeah.
So we're thinking, oh my gosh, she really doesn't like this guy. She was joking about how she doesn't give a crap about him and she'd rather go to the audition.
Yeah.
He was trying to get her to stay. But as a joke, it was kind of banter. But then you realize, well, maybe she doesn't really like this guy.
It was just fed up with the guy, because, in the dream, someone goes and runs her over. Of course, the doll, before we realized it was a dream, we were thinking, how did the doll end up on the road?
I know. Right.
And she wakes up and, it was all a dream. The doll's still there in the corner.
Exactly.
And it's a very creepy doll they found for this.
So creepy.
Perfectly cast. But then we go into virgin territory where we have no clue what's going to happen next.
Exactly. Because we started watching it tonight and we'd already seen all that. And then,
as the woman wakes up and gets out of her bed and goes into her living room, she gets ambushed by the killer. And it's very slashy, very slasher movie. And it's intense. And we're like, okay, I am in.
I'm in. We were already in, but now we're really in.
Yeah.
So what was interesting about The Killer, and again, I had mentioned that the poster for this movie has two things in it. Well, it has curtains, right? And it has the doll, so you can see the doll. But then above the doll, you can see part of the killer's mask. And that mask is so cool looking. I thought it was extremely effective. We've seen all kinds of things since, and this is a simple mask, but it's really creepy.
It's like a witch's
It's
mask.
like a witch mask, but it's
like
really
a red-headed,
scary.
old woman, like
it
witchy.
reminded us of something from another movie, which we won't mention because we don't want to spoil that movie.
Yeah, we can't talk about that.
So it's a more contemporary movie, but I thought it was scarier than the scary thing in the more contemporary movie.
It tells you immediately almost that this is a mask.
Yeah.
Like they make it clear.
It's a mask.
That's a mask.
But it's scary.
Which is really smart. How many movies have a creature and say it's a mask and they acknowledge that it's there?
This is clearly a mask, but it's really well done. Really scary. So now we know. We've established that there is indeed a killer. This is not a dream. They didn't wake up after that. That was it. She didn't even get in the car to drive to the mansion.
She's missing in action, basically.
She's missing. So then you have a situation where everybody's at the mansion. It is snowing. Yes, it's snowed in and all that at that point. And you see that there are only 5 people there. One didn't show up. Stryker's there. Samantha Eggar is there. She's angry with Stryker. Like, why did you do this? But he doesn't want to even have her be Audra. clearly he has decided, nah, yeah, I'm moving on. I don't care if you bought the rights for me. I don't care what happened. I'm doing this. But she's there. So she has some ability to be there. You kind of wonder if she's the money. And that's how she's able to be at the mansion and not be kicked out of there.
If you're going to get like the average, very successful actress and a director who might have hits and misses, it would make sense that she has a lot more money than he does.
She probably does. He's acting like he's all powerful, though. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's very strange. One of the things that's interesting, it's a bit of a misstep, but when you realize what happened in the projection, you understand why. It was very linear when they replaced the director, I think. So the first part of the movie, they even called it Act 1, Act 2. When you look at the credits at the end, they had a different team in Act 1, different team in Act 2. So they basically had that be linear. It wasn't interspersed or anything because it would have looked really messy. But at the beginning, you have her auditioning for the role on stage. It was kind of an interesting sort of soliloquy, and she talks to Stryker. And then they move to that whole thing where they're pretending that she's not well, and then she ends up in the asylum, and you have that whole sequence and him visiting every so often and all these things. And then you move into the real meat of the film, which is basically the mansion, the early murder, and all this other stuff. It could be that Act 1 was before she escaped from the asylum.
I wonder if Act 1 ends with the asylum and everything that happened, including the role-playing sequence where the woman is visited by her boyfriend with an nylon sock on his head.
I think that all is the beginning. Maybe even when she was burning the pictures, that's Act 2. I don't know.
I think only the asylum stuff and the opening sequence at that stage.
Was that about 20 minutes, the whole thing? Or maybe even longer?
Maybe 16, 18 minutes.
It went on maybe longer than it needed to.
Yeah, because the story about this movie is that they started shooting in 81, and it very much looks like something out of the late 70s. They had a lot of problems. The producer fired and recast one of the actresses in the meantime. So that had to be shot. All those things had to be shot again. Yeah.
Oh, so there was some stuff shot that happened after the escape from the mental institution.
They started shooting in 81. They interrupted. He fired the director. He rewrote the script, rewrote scenes, recast one of the actresses, continued shooting, released in 83. So this thing came out 2 years later. And by the time it comes out in 1984, what do we get? We get Nightmare on Elm Street, you know? And we get Friday the 13th, which is 83 as well.
Obliterated it, probably.
By the time this thing comes out, it literally missed the bus. It's like a slasher in the late 70s mold, you know?
It feels like it.
And by the time it comes out, we're looking into high concept. We're looking into, dream creatures and Jason and whatever.
So they're at the mansion, and there are only 5 actresses there instead of 6. And going back to the relationship between Samantha Eggar and Jonathan Stryker character, played by John Vernon. They're an interesting pair because you're not really sure what's going on between them. She's angry with him because of what he did, and she had to escape the asylum. And then he's like, no, I'm not casting you. And she keeps trying to be part of the actress pool in a way. What's interesting is that she keeps trying to sort of, I don't want to say horn in, but sort of get involved in the casting process. She's there throughout the whole movie, which is interesting, and it's nice because I was worried that she was just there at the beginning and then she was going to leave. And John Vernon is there playing Jonathan Stryker. So then we've got these now 5 actresses auditioning for the role, and they all have different things that they do. There's the comedian, there's a dancer, there's an ice skater. And then there's the veteran actress. And then there's another one. She was just taller and
more athletic.
But we didn't see a specific talent from her. There's clearly someone trying to murder everybody. And you assume it's going to be a normal slasher film. But we've got the cool mask, and we've got some really interesting death sequences. I was startled a few times. The horrible transfer that's on streaming is extremely dark. It's really hard to see. I remember this being impossible at times to see. Everybody was in shadow. So it really doesn't do it justice at all. You could say, oh, it's dark, it looks scary. But no, that doesn't work. It really doesn't work at all.
It's like taken out of a tape, and it's not even widescreen. Yeah. It's full screen. It's like a pen and scan version. It's really incredibly dark.
Yeah. Okay, so there's this, what we would call the more naive actress. She's the one that is the ice skater. He had mentioned, oh, I hope you brought your skates. So I was like, okay. I thought it was roller skates, but it ends up being ice skates. That would have been very 70s if it was roller skates, right? Roller girl. She overhears an argument between Samantha and Jonathan. It looks like there's a lot of anger between them. she said, I've done all this for you. I don't even know what they were fighting about, to tell you the truth. It was just some generic thing back and forth. Jonathan Stryker just opens the door all of a sudden while she's standing out there eavesdropping, and it's a little jarring. And then they say, oh no, we're playing a part, we're acting, we're rehearsing or something like that. It's again this sort of this sleight of hand, we're really just role playing. It's not real. So the actress is a little, let's say, destabilized, maybe.
Yeah.
Samantha stays in that room, but the actress turns to walk away and goes into her own room. And then the Jonathan Stryker character follows her and goes in there and then just shuts the door. And you're thinking, oh, okay. One of the other actresses witnesses this. She makes a snide comment about, oh, she just wanted to have sex with the director so she could get the part. This more naive actress, you can see that she's not happy. He leaves the room and her mascara is running and she's upset. Well, the next day she goes ice skating. And it's this beautiful sequence where she's out on the ice and she's skating. And it's a lengthy sequence.
Yeah.
It's just this really smooth, it's some sort of routine, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dance routine on ice to this music. It's a guy singing. It's sort of a love ballad. So long. Every second right. We just saw a little bit of it with the original transfer and it looked like crap. I'm telling you, you've got to get the Blu-ray. If you're going to watch this film, don't waste your time.
At the very least, the DVD.
Oh my God. I don't know how the DVD
but
is.
it
I'm
has
assuming
to be,
it's good.
Well, the same transfer from
Gosh.
2014 should be fine. But one thing to say is that if you're going to be watching DVDs at home, you need a decent player, at the bare minimum, a PS3 or something. And you need a good television.
So there's this beautiful sequence. It's an ice skating sequence to music. It goes on for quite a while. And it's gorgeous. And then, guess what? Guess who comes skating up? Well, she's not looking.
She's in her beautiful routine, listening to some pop music on tape. And Jeannie noticed it was a Memorex brand tape. It's a cassette player. Jeannie saw it, of course. I recognize it too, by the way. But Jeannie remembers them from back in the day.
The silver ones.
And suddenly the music stops. She doesn't know what's going on. So she goes to check it. And it turns out the batteries were in the snow, those big D-type batteries. And there's a hand sticking out of the snow, right? Whose hand is it? You immediately think it's a body.
Actually, I didn't. I immediately thought it was a plastic hand.
I thought it was a dead girl, one of the dead actresses, okay?
No.
And that's what you're supposed to think as the viewer.
I don't know. It's a stiff plastic hand.
But immediately my brain was like, no, it's a doll.
Yeah.
So yes, she starts digging it out and she takes the doll out and then she pulls the doll out.
And it's the same doll.
And it's the same doll from the beginning, the early sequence in the room. Before the woman was murdered in her room, the whole role-playing sequence.
Right.
She turns, and there's this figure
skating over to her
in slow motion with that nasty-ass mask. And Jeannie and I are like mesmerized and watching the sequence. 10 times better on Blu-ray.
Guess what we just saw in the theater? Black Phone 2. And everybody knows, because it's in the trailer, that the Ethan Hawke character, wearing a mask, skates along the ice. So it reminded us of that. And it was even creepier.
And they were most likely shot in a very similar location. They're both shot in Toronto, Canada.
We were thinking that they were possibly from the same location. But
same region, for sure.
If anything, it's similar. If anything, yeah.
Same region, for sure. And actually, when I was watching Curtains and I saw the figure skating, I thought it was Ethan Hawke doing it. But it was a great sequence. At first, the killer decapitates the doll, which was a lovely touch.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Oh, yeah, and then she escapes, right? She's kind of running around the woods.
How does she escape? She knocks the character out with what? The sickle that the character was using? I don't know. I'm trying to remember how that happened.
I don't remember. She just knocked it.
She does valiantly knock the masked killer out. And I'm thinking, take the mask off.
Well, what's interesting is that this killer gets knocked out a lot. It's almost like the killer from Scream.
Yeah.
That keeps getting punched and kicked and slides.
And no one takes the mask off.
Yeah. So she's kind of making her escape in the woods. And she's standing in front of this big pine tree. And then suddenly, the killer's right behind her. And Jeannie screams so loudly. I think everyone in our street heard her. Probably. It was like a total,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Startle scream. And it was so effective. The killing itself happens not off screen because you're seeing she's getting murdered, but the cutting of the neck with the sickle It's not visible. It's
No.
off screen, which is really
It is.
smart.
But it was good. It was
Yeah.
well done. And it was the right timing. We knew that, of course, the killer wasn't completely unconscious and wasn't going to lie there forever and it was going to get up and go get her. We knew it because, of course, she doesn't check. She doesn't take the mask off. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't make sure the killer's dead. She just runs. And then we're like, oh no, the killer's going to get her for sure.
Yeah.
But we just didn't know when. And the timing was perfect. I was talking and I went, ah!
Now, before we continue, I have to say who's at the house. Is the film director, Stryker. It's his ex-girlfriend / partner, Samantha. And the 5 actresses. But there's another person in there.
Oh, yeah.
There's a dude. There's the actor who's going to play the lead role, male lead role, in the movie. And is introduced away at
Matthew.
a dining scene, played by Michael Wincott, who became a bigger actor than almost everyone in this movie. Plays villains almost every single time. And has a great voice.
And guess what?
Doesn't say a word. He doesn't have a single line. This guy's best asset is like his voice. So distinctive.
Well, he has an interesting character actor face, though.
He does.
Yeah. So
He's
it's not just
barely
his
here.
voice.
He's in a
But yeah.
cheesy sex scene
In a hot
tub. And eventually he ends up dead in the hot tub with
Which
a
is
very
kinda funny.
meaningless, kind of lazy death that we
Yeah.
don't see.
We off-screen death.
And that's it. Goodbye,
That's
Michael Wincott.
Yeah, that was interesting because you got super excited when you saw he was in it, and you were thinking, "Oh, good, the guy with the cool voice," and then we never hear him speak.
I'm
How
like-
ironic!
I'm like, Jeannie, wait until he speaks. Wait until he hears this guy's voice. You're going to immediately recognize him.
We have to play something with him in it so I can recognize
I'm
him.
still waiting.
Yeah.
I'm
Let's
still
do
waiting.
that after the podcast. Okay, so that was a really cool death. The ice skating sequence. The way it was shot was really cool. When the killer comes in, again, with the mask on and on the ice, it was great. But that sequence gets extended. How? Because Brooke, the actress who's this sort of veteran actress vying for the role of Audra, like everybody else, she's in the bathroom and she's trying to repaint her nails red. It made no sense. She was like taking off the red nail polish and putting it back on, which was kind of funny. And then you see this shadow behind the shower curtain. And you're like, oh my gosh, someone's in there. First you see some mirrors. You know how you open medicine cabinets? Everybody does that trope of, oh, someone's behind you in the medicine cabinet. So you see that a few times, but it doesn't happen. So you're thinking, okay, something's going to happen. But it's not that. They're not going to do it with the mirrors. And then you see, while she's painting her fingernails, you see behind her this shadow. But then at some point she turns around and she opens the shower curtain really fast. And you see there's a towel hanging there. Clearly there's nothing going on. But then you see that some of her polish got on the toilet seat, and then she opens the toilet seat. And what's in there? The head of the person that was already killed. That was ice skating. I don't know the character's name.
When her head
But-
head got cut off
By the
in
sickle.
front of the pine tree by a person with a sickle, her head ends up in the toilet,
It ends up the toilet.
facing upwards.
Exactly. And she's freaking out. And of course, Jonathan Stryker goes in there and says, there's no one here. There's nothing here. She's like, it's in the toilet. No, there's no one there. Of course, there's no one there. But it does look like a pretty crappy toilet when he looks in there. I mean, it looks like there was blood in the toilet. No one questions that. It's not super obvious, but it looks like a really dirty toilet. At the very least, it's like, why is the toilet so dirty at this nice house? So that was a very interesting death because it was a 2-parter. I would say the other sequence that I really enjoyed was the one where we thought it was going to be a final girl. It was a long sequence. When she died, we thought, aha. We both didn't say anything, but we figured out who the killer was.
Yeah.
Because of the fact we knew there was one more actress left that was vying for the role. So there was a sequence before this where Jonathan Stryker and one of the other actresses, the veteran one, her name was Brooke, Samantha Egger actually shot Jonathan Stryker and he flew out the window.
Brooke kind of jumped in front of him and got shot first, and the bullet didn't even hit him.
So she
It
tried
hit
to
her.
save him?
Yeah, it was a weird
What?
impulse
It
thing.
was really weird. It
And
was
then
really,
they both fell through the window.
in a weird
And
way.
instead of landing outside of the house, they got back in the house
Yeah,
and fell from the outside in
right.
on the lower floor window.
Well, he definitely was back in, but was she, or was she in the snow? So Brooke, her death makes a little more sense where she's lying in the snow, but somehow he made an arc. When he flew out the window, he flew back in another window,
Yeah.
which was really funny. Not weird as you would think when we're describing it, because he wasn't completely in the other one. It was like half in, half out.
Yeah.
But we're thinking, okay, he's dead, right? We assume it's a real death and not a fake death because, it could be a sleight of hand
Yeah.
type of thing. And then Brooke is lying in the snow. So we're thinking, okay, those two people are dead. So that wasn't the greatest death, but it was interesting and funny in a way. And we knew it was Samantha Egger because she had the gun. And
Yeah.
we knew it was her. So it wasn't like the masked killer.
Yeah.
It was her.
It was a very different kind of death
Yeah.
from all the other ones.
In addition to the whole ice skating death, that was really cool. We had another one which we really loved. There was a woman that we started to think, oh, is she going to be the final girl? Because she was trying to get out of there. She ran to cars. She tried to get the heck out of there. It felt very much like a final girl sequence.
She had those qualities, for sure.
It really, the sequence felt like a final girl.
Yeah.
Because of all that she was going through. And we thought, well, this is interesting. She's the one that we really didn't know anything about. She didn't have a particular talent. So why are we focusing on her now? That's weird. Maybe she is the final girl. Maybe we need to focus on her. Maybe we're learning something about her now. We focused our attention on her and we were rooting for her, even though we didn't really know much about her. She seemed like she was smart. She was doing some smart things. First of all, she was trying to get the hell out of Dodge and get in a car and get the heck out of there and forget the audition. Who cares? Right? So she was smart in that way. And then she goes and tries to find another car, which is in a supposed garage, but then she gets kind of lost in the garage.
It's like a big studio.
It looked like backstage at a theater. It looked like a very extended backstage area. And it had all these signs on the walls that said, dead end, do not enter, stop, wrong way. Everything that you can think of that stops you. And then there was even a port that said exit. So she opens the door that says exit. And it's a brick wall.
Yeah,
I mean, it was just hilarious.
And you know what? I have to say this.
Yeah.
I have a suspicion, and maybe it's just a suspicion, that because it's the backstage of a theater, that was part of the stuff that was shot in 81 by the original director.
Possibly, but
it matches.
Does it really match? Because I thought it looked newer.
It looks rougher.
Was it quirky? Was it more quirky?
Rougher.
Okay.
It looks like Giallo-esque.
We didn't get to really look at that style enough, but I think you could be right. It was weird because what is it doing in the house? It was so strange. Like,
it doesn't make any sense that it's there.
A backstage area in this house.
It's like a David Lynch thing. She literally goes looking for another car.
It's weird.
And then suddenly she's
and
in
finds
the backstage.
a taxi, and then the doors fall off, almost like a dream sequence. And then you see all the curtains. So it's like curtains. We're going back to the curtains theme. And you know what? They would show a curtain opening to a next sequence.
Transitions.
And that curtain transitions, and it would only happen at the beginning of the film. It was called Act 1. But the fact that the credits at the end said Act 1, Act 2 makes me think they were linear. But maybe they did have this final, quote-unquote, fake final girl sequence as part of Act 1. But it was just put at the end.
How many locations does this movie have?
Right.
It has the theater.
The theater.
It has the institution. He has the apartment, and he has the mansion in the snow.
Right.
So, institution, theater, probably shot in the same place, next to each other. Apartment shot on a soundstage. And then the transition to the mansion in the snow, it's a second location.
Right.
Big second location.
Of course, there's the ice skating location, which is
two.
exterior. Yeah.
So they could have done Act 1 with the original director, or maybe part of Act 1. And then he got fired. And then they stopped production. They regrouped. People got recast.
I would like to know, that's the one problem of not doing a whole lot of research before we have the podcast. We will probably at some point see the featurette and maybe the making of and find out who did that sequence because it's interesting. We didn't really get into it, but there is that stage sequence at the beginning and it was just a very short sequence. But it does make sense that this portion was filmed in that same stage setting.
Same location.
Okay, but anyway, so I wanted to talk more about what happened in this sequence. So then she sees this cab, as I said, and it was a Mini Cooper, and everything falls off. It's a non-working car, but it feels very dreamlike because where's the garage? Like, how did she even get in there? And then there's all these curtains all over the place. Again, the thematic element of the curtains comes back, which is more of an Act 1 theme. And of course, the title of the film. But then there's also these mannequins hanging, almost look like they're hanging, like with nooses around their necks, hanging from the rafters behind the scenes of what looks like a stage. And then you see one of them is another actress that was recently killed, which wasn't an amazing death at all. She's the dancer that we mentioned earlier.
Lazy death, yeah.
It was a pretty lazy death. It was just her doing some weird dance routine. Very strange dance routine. Modern dance, but looked very animalistic, done to classical solo piano, which was odd. It didn't really match. And then all of a sudden you see close up of her face and a glove over her mouth. And there wasn't much going on there with that death. But she's hanging. So that was a neat way to extend that death, even though the death wasn't very interesting. She's hanging from the rafter. She's one of the many figures that's hanging.
A bunch of mannequins.
She's the only human that's hanging. And of course the fake final girl sees that and screams. She's running around and then the masked killer comes at her, and just like the one in the snow, she knocks out the masked killer.
She grabbed a piece
Oh
of wood.
yeah, she slammed a
and
piece of
she's-
wood at her. And you're thinking, okay, maybe she's the final girl and maybe she killed her, but why didn't she take the mask off? Okay, something's up. And then she's running around and she just gets dragged and gets killed. But again, we don't really see the death, but it was such an interesting sequence that we are satisfied with that. But then we're like, okay, wait a minute. Did she just die? If she just died and she's not the final girl, there is one actress left. So we're about ready to tell you. You know that Samantha Eggar did kill Jonathan Stryker. Jonathan Stryker is actually dead. And she accidentally killed Brooke. I don't think she was trying to kill Brooke. She jumped in front. So then you're thinking, okay, did she kill everybody? I don't think so. That would be too easy. Who's left?
Exactly.
Guess who's left? Okay, we're about to tell you. We're going to reveal the killer. The comedian.
Not funny, haha, but funny, strange.
Yes, she's the one. And how do you find that out? Because the next sequence, or the next scene after the fake final girl gets killed,
Is a denouement.
is a denouement. Samantha and the comedian are in the kitchen. And they're talking and they're pouring each other drinks. And then you realize, yeah, we knew at the beginning of the sequence.
The comedian was very nervous and she dropped the champagne bottle. And then Samantha's like, don't worry about it. There's plenty more where that one came from. So the comedian goes and gets another bottle. And they start drinking champagne together. And Samantha's like, well, Stryker's out of the picture. And I'm not ashamed of it. I did what I need to do. And then we find out from the comedian that she took care of everyone else. And what's interesting is that the only hint whatsoever that this was a possibility was one scene between Stryker and the comedian where he's talking to her. He's kind of dismissing her offhand. And she's really pissed. And she talks back to him. And there's so much anger and aggressiveness. And he's like, well, yeah, that's more like Audra. But he doesn't know what he's messing with. There was real fire.
So what's going on is that she said, you just think I'm a comedian, don't you? You just think I'm a funny comedian. You don't understand that I can be serious too, and I have other emotions. She rips into him. And like Louise said, he just says, oh, well, it's more like Audra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was our one hint. She was a little unhinged.
And Audra, and let's remember, the Audra character is someone who is mentally ill and is locked up in an asylum.
And is violent.
We go back to the beginning. Why was Samantha Eggar in the asylum? She was there to study and do some method research for the role of Audra, who is mentally incapacitated, or at least locked up for reasons unknown. Or maybe she's a murderer. We don't even know. When he says that's more like Audra, he's basically saying that's more mental. I want you to be more like that. That's what I want for my actress. But that gave it away in a way.
We didn't catch it.
Yeah, and that's why this movie has a lot of wonderful aspects to it. There's a brilliance to it where we didn't even know. Things also happened so quickly that we didn't have enough time to linger on that. And the interesting thing about the comedian character is that she was a very likable character. She was funny. She would make, well, obviously she's a comedian, but she would make these funny comments that made you feel that she was a more grounded character than the others. So it was a trick, and it worked.
Totally worked. And I read that the person who plays the Spark actually wrote her comedic bit herself and performed it in front of a live audience. For real.
Nice.
When they shot that sequence, when they introduced her character. So just kind of the book ended. Basically, after the killer is revealed, and Samantha realizes she may be a killer, she's not the killer, the comedian pulls out a very big knife and kills her on the spot in the kitchen. And then we cut to the mental institution. And it's the same comedic bit that was being performed in the beginning, but now she's performing to a bunch of patients. So
but you know what's interesting? It doesn't show her actually performing. It shows it in her head. It was an interesting touch.
The book ends, but now it's the comedian that's stuck there. Of course, she was caught after killing all those people. And she's revisiting in her mind her bit.
So what you see is her standing in front of the other inmates, smiling, and in her head, you hear her entire routine that we heard at the beginning with the laughter of the people that were there watching her. But it's not really happening. It's all in her head. And that's what's going on. Everybody has their own thing that's going on in their head, at these mental institutions. And that's what's going on in her head. So she's very happy because she's remembering that her routine is probably on a loop. There we go. What do we have? We have a doll. That's a very creepy doll. We have a very creepy mask. We have various sleight of hand, maybe misleading sequences, and various role play sequences. So I thought that was neat. There were 3 of them. There was one going into the asylum, 2, the role play with the couple, the boyfriend, who isn't really a killer. And then 3, the supposed argument that is witnessed by the ice skater.
Well, Jeannie's not mentioning the fourth one. It's when the two actresses were together facing each other.
So we see this weird sequence that we forgot about, which shows very close in shot of one of the actresses, the dancer, the one that had the kind of the boring death that ends up hanging at the end. And then we see her reaching her hand out in a very awkward fashion, shaking to touch the breast, exposed breast of the woman that ends up being the fake final girl. And she's standing there and you're thinking, okay, are they having some sort of relationship? What's going on here? We have no idea. But it's so awkward. We're thinking, okay. And then all of a sudden, the Jonathan Stryker character pops up from behind the breast of a woman. And he's like, no, you have to think like a man, because it was an acting exercise where the one woman, the dancer, is supposed to be a male character seducing the other woman and touching her breast. But it was so awkward. It was just so strange. But it was hilarious at the same time, with Jonathan Stryker popping up from behind.
And that's basically the fourth role play in the movie, because they were playing specific roles in this quote-unquote exercise. No,
Never
really.
seen an acting exercise like that in my life, to tell you the truth. Both of us have taken acting classes.
Yeah.
At no point did we ever see that.
So I think we should go into final impression.
I think it's a shame, because every so often we look at the old version just to do some reviewing of it, and it's just horrific compared to the version that we have. The streaming transfer is not worth watching unless you need to assess it for a little while. But it is not going to do the film justice. You really need to get the Blu-ray, possibly the DVD, but definitely the Blu-ray. Okay, so that's one thing we just need to make very clear. The direction is a little uneven in that you can tell that someone else worked on the beginning and someone else worked on most of the second part of it. In that way, it's a bit uneven. I would say it's a bit slow at the beginning. We were worried. Luis and I were worried about the whole mental institution thing's going to be there forever. But no, it does really take off probably about 10 minutes before we hit the actual mansion audition portion.
Yeah, it takes off at the apartment scene.
Give it some time. I think the direction is wonderful. I had no problem with that once things really kicked off. The mask is great. The doll is great. It tricked us several times. We did figure it out toward the end, but you know what? The next scene, you find out that the comedian did do this. It's not like you have a bunch of time where you're like, oh yeah, it's the comedian. It's only at the very end, and I think it was intentional. There's no way that they were assuming the audience wouldn't have figured that out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was smart. There are a lot of interesting themes in here. You had mentioned sort of the aging actress theme. We've seen it before, the All About Eve concept of I'm going to kill everybody off and I'm not going to let anybody take my role, and people vying for the same role, women vying for it. It's an interesting idea because we've seen a lot of slasher films where a lot of women get killed and then there's a final girl. We did something a little different here. It works quite well if you're into this type of film where people get picked off. And there were some creative deaths.
Yeah, this is a great little horror movie, slasher-esque. It's interesting that the version that's available for streaming right now is most likely taken from like a Betacam SP tape or something like that in 4:3.
Yeah.
Very dark, very dim.
You can hardly
You
make
can't
it out.
see anything. It's muddy. It suffers of what you call black crush, where detail is lost in the dark areas of the frame. It's almost unwatchable. And if that's your conception of what this movie is, you haven't really seen the movie.
Right.
When we decided to buy the Blu-ray, I stumbled on it. I think I was going to watch a YouTube review of it. And someone's like, yeah, and the Blu-ray. I'm like, what? I was on Wikipedia. And then I'm like, oh my God, there's 2 directors in this. Oh my God.
Right.
Like,
That's
I was like,
weird
there's a lot of stuff here.
There's some weird
And then
stuff going on.
I saw, we said, oh yeah, there was a remastered version in 2014 on DVD and Blu-ray by Synapse. Okay, but I didn't care. Like, we're trying to watch this thing, right? And not for a podcast. And then I started playing a YouTube review, and then I somehow found out that it was a gigantic difference, and we made the decision to stop. right
Yeah, you
after
were researching all this while we were watching it.
Yeah,
That's totally fine.
Right after the dream, we stopped. It's like a game changer. I don't remember another movie that changed so much with the same cut, basically. There's no difference in the cut. It's not like it's a director's cut. The sound from mono to 5.1, from 4:3 image to widescreen.
The beautiful scenery. Oh my gosh, it gets lost.
It's a very interesting film because it shows you an alternate evolutionary path for horror movies in the 80s. If they haven't gone the way of
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Jason, Nightmare on Elm Street.
The issue here is that Curtains was going in a different direction than what everybody ended up going into, partially because the filming started earlier, before this shift to something that was more like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, and they were trying to avoid the teeny bopper horror film subgenre. They were kind of moving away from it. They didn't want to do that again. And they moved away from it too quickly because I think throughout the 80s, teens and horror went together the whole decade, Probably through the 90s too, with Scream and everything else. I Saw What You Did Last Summer. They never really ended, if you think about it. They became very joined together, teenagers and people in their early 20s and horror. So when the filmmakers decided, no, we're going to move on from this, we're going to make it about adult women and an adult director and some more, not evolved, elevated almost, like we talk about elevated horror, right? It's almost like this was an attempt at elevated horror, and then the producer got so pissed at what the director was doing that he took over. It's an achievement. Think about it. A movie that had two directors, two visions, with 2 years in between, recasting one of the actresses. It's like, this should have been a disaster. And it turns out to be a fascinating horror film, slasher-esque, perfect representative of the late 70s, early 80s.
It wasn't a disaster, but I guess it was released too late.
Oh, it was a flop.
You know that we're both connoisseurs in this area, and I was around during that time. Why didn't I know about it? Because a lot of people don't know about this movie. That's a problem. Yeah. I'm glad it's not a disaster, but it wasn't seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the bigger problem here.
The budget for this, supposedly, according to IMDb, was $3.7 million, which was decent for an independent production in the early 80s. It only made $1 million in theaters.
And they had money from Prom Night, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that the director who took over for the other director was actually the producer.
Yeah.
And so what had happened is he retained his producer credit and didn't take co-director credit for some reason. And used a pseudonym for direction because maybe was not fully happy with the result. Usually you don't do that. You don't hide behind an obvious pseudonym. It's the name of the character in the film unless you are dissatisfied with the production.
I think it was an issue where maybe the director was in the DGA and he would fault the producer if he tried to take full credit. The original director didn't want to be credited either. So it was a situation where it's easier to have a fictional name.
But yet he's credited on IMDb.
I know.
So 100%. We don't have enough information to know exactly what happened with the director.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story no matter what.
Who was recast? Did you figure that out?
Okay, it's Brooke.
So the person that
Linda Thorson replaced Celine Lomes.
Well, that's interesting because Linda Thorson is considered top billing. When it shows the names of the actors, it shows John Vernon first, Samantha Eggar second, and Linda Thorson third. She must have been known.
Linda Thorson was in the New Avengers, and she's well known for that.
Yeah. I thought she was sort of familiar looking.
She was in the Avengers, and then she was again in the New Avengers.
Did Samantha Eggar have some sort of skin in the game, so to speak? Because she had such a major role in this.
No, she did it only for the money and hated it.
She had such a role in this. She was a major, major character. Yeah. And I thought that was a cool thing. It reminds me of Crampton showing up.
I know.
Here we are with Samantha Eggar, and sadly she died.
She was the biggest actress in the whole thing.
Right.
And the director was uncomfortable dealing with her. He couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And she supposedly wasn't a problem whatsoever. She wasn't. She said it was badly written. She said the characters make no sense. And she just took it for the work and for the money.
She did a great job.
Well, professional, yeah.
Yeah, she's a professional.
Yeah. She was so professional that Jeannie thought she had skin in the game, and she didn't. It was the opposite. Yeah. But she was a consummate professional. She did her job.
Obviously.
Now, what I was going to say is that as a movie like this, the story is almost better told with another movie that tells the making of Curtains. Someone should make a feature film that talks about the making of Curtains.
That would be interesting. The first thing that needs to be done is this DVD/Blu-ray version. That transfer needs to be on streaming. They're doing a disservice to the film. That is the first thing that needs to happen here.
Yeah, but how is that going to happen?
I don't know.
The rights are in two different hands.
I feel like it's forgotten. I feel like it was forgotten.
There's
no way that someone that put the DVD and Blu-ray would not want to also make money off of the streaming. How much money are they making on the DVD, please? Or the Blu-ray?
No, they make a good amount.
Oh,
It's a
please.
premium product, even if it's cheap.
Who buys it? Who knows about
Only
it?
horror enthusiasts.
We didn't even know about this. I
Yeah.
had to do a lot of research to find this movie.
Well, this pressing is from 2014, so they didn't even sell out in 2014. But now it means they're going to be rare. If you're
Well,
into horror and you collect, you
again,
should buy this thing.
But let's not do a disservice to the film. You know what I mean? I agree. It's a collectible, but that's not the greatest thing for the people involved. And we want more people to see it.
Yeah.
And we want more people to see it in the right way.
Yeah, we beg of you, do not watch the version on Prime right now, the streaming version.
Yeah, we don't have any skin in the game, but you guys should buy the Blu-ray.
At the very least, get the DVD that came out in 2014, not the earlier one.
Right.
It has to be the one from Synapse. If it's not that one, don't buy it.
And
It's gonna
talk
be
to
the same
Synapse
terrible
or
transfer.
whoever, or talk to whoever has the streaming rights and say, guys, you need to work together and get the right transfer out here.
I think it's FilmRise.
Ridiculous. Yeah, and FilmRise usually puts out some good stuff.
No, they have rights to a lot of stuff that's being lost to time that no one cares. And that's how they got those rights.
But they
because were
usually
cheap.
put out good versions. I haven't seen weird stuff from FilmRise.
Well, a
This
lot
is
of the stuff
horrible.
was the 35mm negative or whatever interpositive release version gets scanned properly in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it looks decent on DVD and Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
But in cases like this, where the movie's that small, somehow the home version is based on a tape.
Yeah.
And you can literally tell it's from tape.
That's horrible. Anyway, I feel like I need to write to them or something. Something needs to happen here. Okay, so we love the direction. We love the creativity in some of the deaths. The acting is great. I had no problem with the acting.
Nah, perfect.
No problem with any of the actors. There was some tongue-in-cheek stuff that was a lot of fun. These fake outs that were very enjoyable. Some startling scares where I screamed.
Mm-hmm.
And the mask was really cool. Love to have that for Halloween. And the doll. Because there have been some really crappy looking dolls in some horror movies. This one was great. I loved it. So, and I would say the setting is wonderful when you can actually see it in its glory. Exteriors and interiors. A lot of creative sequences. I would just say the only thing that you need to make sure you're aware of is that the beginning is not really what the movie is about. You have to wade through the first, 20 minutes or so?
Mm-hmm. It makes such a bad first impression. The stuff in the theater in the beginning, and then you go straight into the institution. That stuff is like, oh my god!
It seems hodgepodgey. It seems
it's like a TV movie with
Yeah.
a low budget. It's like a step above Columbo, and Columbo probably has better writing.
Columbo has a lot better writing.
Yeah,
So that's the thing. You have to be careful about that. Just know that there's more in store, and it's a treat when you finally get to see it. If you haven't seen the doll or the mask, the witchy mask yet, you have not seen the movie.
yeah. You gotta watch The Dream before you stop, if you even think about stopping.
Well, we just know that the doll and
Yeah.
the witchy mask. I would say both.
Yeah.
Because we were right before the witchy mask showed up. We were already sold, but partially because you did your research. If you hadn't done the research, you might not have been okay with that. Then literally 5 minutes later, we saw the witchy mask.
And I remember looking
That
at
was
IMDb
cool.
and seeing the mask and thinking, where the hell does this mask come from?
Where did that show up?
Like, what
Is
is the
it real?
context?
Yeah, exactly. So,
So,
I
yeah.
don't know if we have a whole lot to say. I mean, it's not like some major social commentary movie. It doesn't have a lot of in-depth themes. It's definitely a traditional slasher film that is of the late 70s variety, even though it came out in 83, because of all the trouble behind the scenes. So I don't know if we have a whole lot else to say.
It's for adults. It talks about the issues of aging and competing for roles and the role that men and women play, and
Yeah.
you know, sleazy film director.
Oh, yeah, he's sleazy, and we
you
didn't
know,
really get into that
Guy's
one.
a predator.
Yeah,
right?
he's the predator. He's doing really weird things. The fact that he's using this boob thing as an exercise, come on.
He's an asshole.
Yeah,
So we were very happy with the way he dies in this.
yeah.
You know,
Half in and half out.
knows who killed him, died in a painful way, ticks all the boxes. So this is, like Jeannie said, it's not like it's dealing with some really important themes.
No
of
heavy
society.
duty stuff.
What it's trying to do, it does well. And even if it's a little uneven, you might not be quite sure who's directing what. In the end, if you watch the proper version, if you watch this thing on Blu-ray, with a nice sound system, with a nice television, it's going to blow your socks off.
It's definitely worth seeing.
Much,
Gotta
yeah,
see this.
very much so.
Anybody who's a horror connoisseur has to see this film. It's a little known gem.
All right.
All right. We're giving it 2 thumbs up for sure, right?
4 thumbs up.
No, 2. 2 thumbs up. My thumb, his thumb. Yes.
And yes, it's excellent. I think you're going to love it.
Yes. I guess it's time to bid you
Adieu.
bye for
now.
now.
For now.
For now.
And curtains for you.
Toodaloo.